Hey kids, welcome to section 7.1, multiplying and dividing rational expressions. Today we're going to learn how to simplify rational expressions and how to simplify complex fractions. So a ratio of two polynomial expressions such as x plus 2 over x is called a rational expression. So anytime you have a quantity inside of or in a fraction with another quantity, that's called a rational expression. Rational just means fraction. So if I want to simplify each expression, and then I also want to say under what conditions is this expression undefined. Remember that expressions are undefined when the denominator equals 0. Denominator equals 0. All right, so let's look at letter A. Always try to factor as much as you can at the beginning. It'll make your life a lot easier. So I'm going to leave on top the 4y, and I'm going to leave the y minus 3, and I'm going to leave the y plus 4. On the bottom, I'm going to leave the y alone, and then I'm going to factor y squared minus y minus 6. That means you want to find two numbers that add to give me -1 and multiply to give me -6. So that would be -3 and +2. Now notice that there's a y minus 3 on the top and a y minus 3 on the bottom. Those can simplify to 1. And then a y on the top and a y on the bottom, those can simplify. And so on top, I'm left with a 4 and a y plus 4. And on the bottom, I'm left with y plus 2. Now remember, I cannot cancel the y on the top with the y on the bottom because it's a quantity. They're attached with an addition symbol to another number. So I can't simplify them anymore. That's all I can do. Okay, if we take a look at letter B, the only thing that needs to be factored is this top right. So I'm just going to put two parentheses by it, and I'm going to put a z, and I'm going to put a z. And I need to find two numbers that add to give me 2 and multiply to give me -8. So that's going to be 4 and -2. So then notice I have a -2 on the bottom and a -2 on the top. Those are going to simplify. And I have an z plus 5 and a z plus 5. Those are going to simplify. So I have a 2z left over with a z plus 4 on the top. And then on the bottom, I have a z minus 1. Remember, the z's cannot cancel with each other because they are attached with a quantity by a plus or a minus. All right, if we look at letter C, notice that the top can simplify. I can factor out a z, and I'm left with x minus 4. On the bottom, I have z squared. And then notice that 4 minus x looks almost like x minus 4. And so what you can do is you can flip the order and say x minus 4. But when you do that, you need to factor out a negative. So notice that if I distributed negative times x is -x, and a negative times a -4 is a +4. So notice that I can put my negative in front of my z squared, and now I can put x minus 4. Look how that helps us, because now I have an x minus 4 and an x minus 4 that can simplify. And so I'm left with z over -z squared. And I can cancel a z on top with a z on the bottom. And I'm left with -1 over z. Notice that it doesn't matter that I move the negative from the bottom to the top. Since it's not attached to a variable or a number, I can move the negative sign wherever it looks the best. All right, when we look at letter D, notice in the numerator that we have an A and a B in common. So we're going to take an A and a B out. That's going to leave us with a B minus 5. Oh, then look on the bottom. 5 plus B, can't really do anything with that. But 5 minus b looks a lot like b minus 5. So I can do my little trick again where I can put a negative and I can switch the order. So I'm going to put the negative in front and I'm going to put b minus 5. Now I can simplify the b minus 5s. And I'm left with an a times b on top and a -5 plus b. Notice I can move that negative from the bottom up to the top. Since it's a quantity, it's making the entire thing negative. All right, so that is how you simplify rational expressions, something that you're going to do at the end of every problem. Let's see what it looks like to multiply and divide. So in the top corner here, I have a box that helps you remember how to multiply rational expressions. Basically, you want to look right here. It reminds you that if you're going to multiply a over b times c over d, that you just multiply across the top. A times c, ac, b times d is bd. And then you want to simplify the fraction like we did on the previous slide. I'll quickly show you that there's one for dividing on the next slide. It's right down here at the bottom. The thing to remember about division is that you're actually multiplying by the reciprocal. And so you're going to keep the first fraction the same, a divided by b. You're going to change the division symbol to a times, and you're going to flip c over d to now be d over c. And then you're going to multiply across and get the answer. So let's go back and practice some of these on this slide. First thing you always want to do is factor still. First thing you always want to do. So I'm going to just draw my two lines here to represent my fractions. I'm going to look at this top left fraction. It looks like there's a 4 in common in everything, so I'm going to take a 4 out, and that leaves me with 2x squared minus x minus 10. The reason why I did this is because now I can factor. Let's put the 4 there, and let's start our two factors. So I know because there's a 2x squared in front that one of these is going to be 2x and one of these is going to be x. Then if I have to get negative 10, I need to have 2 times 5. Now when I collect like terms, I got to have a negative 1. And I can't put a 2 in a parentheses with another 2. So that means my 2's got to go on the right side and my 5's got to go on the left. And if I play around the signs, I need a negative when I collect like terms. So my 2x has to be, 2x minus 5 has to be negative, and x plus 2 has to be positive. Then I look at the bottom. Okay, this is a bit nicer to factor. I have an x at the start. I need to add to get 2 and multiply to get negative 35. So that's going to be 7 and negative 5. Then in the top right here, this is another nice one. I'm going to have an x at the start. I need to add to get negative 7, multiply to get 10. That's going to be negative 2 and negative 5. And then on the bottom here, notice that there's a 4 in common. So I'm going to factor a 4 out before I do anything. All right, so let's put that 4 down there. Now, x squared minus 4 is the difference of two squares. X squared is a square, 4 is a square, so that factors into x minus 2 and x plus 2. All right, once we have everything factored, look for something on top that's also on the bottom. So I see an x minus 2 and an x minus 2. I see an x plus 2 and an x plus 2. I see an x minus 5 and an x minus 5. And I see a 4 and a 4. So it looks like on top, I have a 2x minus 5. And on the bottom, I have an x plus 7. And you cannot cancel the x's. So make sure that you remember that they're attached with the subtraction and the addition signs. All right, so make sure you remember for letter B that when you divide by a fraction, you're really multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to put these little arrows here and a dot to remind you. So let's put our two fractions. Notice I changed it to a dot already. So in this top left, I've got two parentheses. I have x's at the start. I need two numbers that add to give me negative 9 and multiply to give me 20. So that's going to be negative 5 and negative 4. If I look in the bottom left, I also have factors right away. I need to add to get 10, multiply to get 21. That's going to be a positive 7 and a positive 3. Now remember on this side I'm flipping. So when I do x squared minus x minus 12, that's going to go on the bottom. So I put my x's. I need to add to get -1, multiply to get -12. So that's going to be a -4 and a +3. And then notice in the bottom, it's actually going to go on top. But on the bottom, there's a 6 in common, so let's take that out. I'm left with x squared plus 10x plus 21. So now we're going to drop the 6 down, and then we're going to factor. We've got the x here and the x here. We add to get 10 and multiply to get 21. So we've got a +7 and a +3. So then let's see what simplifies. The x plus 3 on top and on the bottom, the x plus 7 on the top and on the bottom, the x minus 4 on the top and on the bottom. So it looks like there's a leftover 6, there's a leftover x minus 5, and an x plus 3. Nothing can simplify. The 3 cannot simplify with the 6. The x's cannot simplify. That's all you can do. All right, if we look at letter C, let's do our two fractions. We've got the top left, x and x. Let's see, adds to get -4, multiplies to get -21. That's going to be -7 and +3. On the bottom, start our parentheses, x and x. Let's see, adds to get -6, multiplies to get 8. That's going to be a -4 and a -2. Then the x minus 4, can't do anything with that. On the bottom, I can factor x and x. I need to add to get -2, multiply to get -35. That's going to be -7 and +5. So let's see, we have an x minus 7 and an x minus 7. We have an x minus 4 and an x minus 4. That looks like about it. So I got an x plus 3 left over on top. And I got an x minus 2, x plus 5 on the bottom. Nothing can simplify. They're all attached to other things. All right, when we look at letter D, notice we have division. So we need to make sure we multiply by the reciprocal. So let's do our fractions. The top left is the difference of two squares. A squared is a square, b squared is a square, and there's a subtraction sign in between. So I can factor as a minus b and a plus b. On the bottom left, there is a 3 in common. So I can factor that out, and I have an a squared minus 2a plus 1. So let's put that 3 down, and let's factor the rest. I have an a and an a. Let's see, adds to get -2, multiplies to get 1. That's going to be -1 and -1. All right, let's remember to flip. So 4a plus 4b is going to go in the denominator. There's a 4 in common as a GCF, and there's an a plus b left. Then we have a squared minus 1. We're going to factor that. That's the difference of two squares again, because there's a subtraction and both of them are squares. So that factors into a minus 1, a plus 1. So then let's see, an a minus 1 and an a minus 1 can cancel. An a plus b and an a plus b can cancel. So it looks like the numerator is a minus b, a plus 1. And on the bottom, we have a 3 and an a minus 1 and a 4. So that 3 times 4 can be a 12 and a minus 1. All right, so let me go down here. These are called complex fractions. Complex fractions are when you have a fraction within a fraction. So these look really scary, but you have a fraction on the top and the fraction on the bottom, and it's all one fraction. Now keep in mind that this really big division line is making the fraction, but it's technically division. So you can rewrite this as x squared minus y squared over y squared minus 49. That's the top. And then multiply and find the reciprocal. So switch the top and the bottom of the bottom fraction. So y plus 7 comes on top, and y minus x goes on the bottom. Now I can factor. So I'll put my two fraction bars. So the top left is the difference of two squares. That factors into x minus y, x plus y. The bottom left is also the difference of two squares. So that can be y minus 7 and y plus 7. Now the top is y plus 7, can't do anything with that. Notice the bottom is subtraction, and it looks a lot like x minus y. So remember, I can write x minus y as long as I factor out a negative. Now my my y plus 7s can simplify. My x minus y's can simplify. And so on top I have x plus y. And on the bottom I have a negative and a y minus 7. There we go. All right, in letter B, let's rewrite this using multiplying by the reciprocal. So I have x minus 2 quantity squared on top, and a 2 times x squared minus 5x plus 4. Then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, so flip. So 4x minus 10 comes on top, and x squared minus 4 goes on the bottom. Now I can try to factor and simplify. So let's see, this top left right here, I'm just going to write it twice because that's what it means when you quantity square. On the bottom left, I have a 2 there. The rest of it I can factor. I can put x and put x. I can add to get negative 5, multiply to get 4. So that's negative 4 and negative 1. If I look at the top right, I can factor a 2 out, and I'm left with 2x minus 5. On the bottom right, I can factor it into x minus 2x plus 2. So now let's see, I have an x minus 2 and an x minus 2. I have a 2 and a 2. All right, that didn't really do very much. So I have an x minus 2 on top and a 2x minus 5 on top. And on the bottom, I have x minus 4, x minus 1, and x plus 2. Doesn't look very simplified, but that's as good as it gets. All right, if we look at letter C, let's rewrite it. So we're going to leave it as x squared and 9x squared minus 4y squared. Let's multiply by the reciprocal, so flip. So I got 2y minus 3x on the top and x cubed on the bottom. All right, so let's factor. Can't do anything with x squared. Let's leave that one alone. Bottom left, that is the difference of two squares. 9x squared is a square. 4y squared is a square. So 3x minus 2y and 3x plus 2y. All right, sorry, that was a little squishy. All right, the x cubed is down here. And oh, look at this. 2y minus 3x looks a lot like 3x minus 2y if I put a negative out. So I can flip the order. Now my 3x minus 2y's can simplify. And I have x squared on top and x cubed on the bottom. I can simplify those out and get a single x left over. So it looks like on top the only thing I have is a negative, but I need a number. So I'm going to put a 1. And on the bottom I have this lonely x left over, but I also have 3x plus 2y. So there we go. All right, if we look at letter D, let's rewrite it. So 4x over x plus 6. Then let's multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to put x squared plus 3x minus 18 on top. And I'm going to put x squared minus 3x on the bottom. Then I'm going to factor. Well, I can't do anything with the 4x, and I can't do anything with the x plus 6. On the top right, I can add to get 3 and multiply to get negative 18. So that's going to be positive 6 and negative 3. And then x squared minus 3x, I can factor out in x, and I'm left with x minus 3. So the x plus 6's can simplify, the x minus 3's can simplify, and the x's can simplify. All I'm left with is 4. All right, so that's it. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And as always, keep calm and keep trucking.